So nowadays I'm reading this Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese, and I'm just going to read a few words from the back of the book, in which, in praise of the book, it's written, a novel of utter beauty. The Covenant of Water is worthy of all praise in the depiction of medical ingenuity and family loves. It is epic and eye-opening, the sort of story that only a singular mind like Abraham Verghese could have woven. So, and of course, it's a majestic, another one, the Adani Shapiro writes that it is a majestic, sweeping story of family secrets, their curse, their legacy, and their cure is intimate and profound. He takes us on a journey across nearly a century and more than one continent, all the while dazzling with his rich, elegant prose. Actually, you must read this. It is a voluminous novel, and there are around 84 chapters. They're divided into parts. So part 1, you have chapters 1 to 22. Part 3 has chapters 23 to 29, part 4 30 to 36, part 5 35 to 49, part 6 chapter 50 to 56, 7 is chapter 57 to 62, part 9 is chapter 73 to 79, and part 10 chapter 10 to 84. What is important is that every part has a sketch that you must see, and in the acknowledgement he writes, which I'm going to read later and later for you. But before that, let me just give you a short review of what it is all about. This novel actually focuses almost entirely on good people to whom many terrible things happen. And given the complexity of human beings, the surfeit of grace sometimes feels unrealistic, even pretentious, as though the writer is affiliating himself with standards that ordinary humans cannot attain. The novel is grand, spectacular, sweeping, and utterly absorbing. And Verghese does have this gift of suspense, and his easy relationship to language draws you through the narrative to effortlessly that you hardly realize that you're plowing through decade upon decade and page upon page. The book begins in 1900 as a 12-year-old girl in what is now the state of Kerala in southwest India prepares for an unwanted arranged marriage. It ends in 1977 when that girl's physician granddaughter arrives at a shocking discovery. The family are Indian Christians, descendants of those first converted by St. Thomas in the 1st century AD. They lead tough but often joyful lives, and they gradually make their way up in the world despite impossible looking challenges. So you must read through it. So you can see this photo of Abraham Verghese at the inside jacket at the back of the book. Abraham Verghese occupies a curious place in the modern literary landscape. A doctor who decided mid-career to train at the Iowa Writers' Workshop. He has gone on to achieve distinctions in both fields. He is a professor of the theory and practice of medicine at Stanford Medical School, continues in clinical practice, has won the National Humanities Medal, speaks widely about the importance of the human element of what has become a technocratic practice, and has won awards for both fiction and non-fiction. So even his last novel, that is Cutting for Stone, spent more than 2 years on the newspaper's bestsellers list. So that speaks a lot. So now Verghese was born in Ethiopia to Indian parents from Kerala, going on to practice as a physician and a professor of medicine in America. He writes in meticulous detail about the bountiful nature, the intricate rituals of everyday life, and the rigors of medical study. That's what he's written. See, on the cover you can see this stamp of Oprah's Book Club 2023. And she has, if you go through her YouTube, you will find at length the conversations she's had with Ibrahim. Now the tone of the book is sometimes pedagogical. There are a lot of doctors here, and we learn in rather fine detail about surgical procedures if you go through that. Anatomical constructions and medical interventions. Verghese is writing all about all these things. Medical is particularly adroit. His profound understanding of the human body is perhaps his greatest strength. Even if the personalities of the numerous physicians are not fully rounded, their identities as doctors are. We also learn a great deal about India, some of which we might already have known. The caste system, the social upheavals of the 20th century, a variety of foods, information about architecture, farming, and family structure, the place of faith in society, and eventual move towards socialism. And so we enter the world of Ibrahim Verghese, the Covenant of Water. The year is 1900, and a 12-year-old girl takes a boat to get married to a 40-year-old widower. She goes on to become Begamachi, the matriarch of the estate of Parambil. Over the course of 7 decades, she will be the unwavering center of this land and its community. She will discover that there is a curse, a condition that runs in the family, a drowning in every generation that no one can explain, and everyone prays a doctor will find a cure for. So, talking about Ibrahim Verghese, he was born in Ethiopia to Indian parents from Kerala, going on to practice as a physician and a professor of medicine in America. He writes in meticulous detail about, as I've already mentioned before. So it's a good read. It takes you through generations and sometimes even traumatic if you're reading that. And one thing, while you're reading, you really feel like going and visiting the backwaters of Kerala. Very interesting. Well, he's given us a map of India, and you can see Kerala right in South India, which is colored in black. It is elaborated here. Trivandrum is the capital of Kerala, and then you can see the entire Kerala in the Arabian Sea. So princely states and Cochin and Travancore, and you have the South Malabar in the map. Throughout, Verghese painstakingly weaves in his insatiable love for and belief in art and literature. When an eccentric neighbor teaches Amaji's son, Philippos, to read, starting with Moby Dick, Amaji wonders, isn't it one big lie? It's fiction, thunders the old teacher. Fiction is the great lie that tells the truth about how the world lives. Mother and son are quickly converted, hungry to read, and here Verghese secures his opus through line. After reading a book, Philippos explains to Maji, I've lived through 3 generations and learned more about the world and about myself than I do during a year in school. I've lived through 3 generations and learned more about the world and about myself than I do during a year in school. Ahab, Queen Queg, Ophelia, and other characters die on the page so that we might live better lives. That's surely its own covenant, a fitting mission statement for this grandly ambitious, impassioned work. Covenant is a magnificent feat. In the acknowledgement, he talks about his mother, Miriam Verghese. She filled 157 pages of a spiral notebook with memories of her childhood written in assured and elegant cursive. Mom was a talented artist, and so she interspersed quick sketches alongside her text. The fable-like anecdotes she recorded were very familiar to her 3 sons, though the details changed with every telling. He writes, Mom passed away in 2016 at the age of 93, but even in her last months, as I was writing this book, she would call me with some memory that had just surfaced, such as how her cousin, who kept being held back in the same grade in elementary school, was finally promoted only because his weight collapsed the bench on which he was seated, sending him tumbling into the next grade of the one-room schoolhouse. So he writes, I have used several of Mom's anecdotes in The Covenant of Water, but more precious to me were the mood and the voice that came through in her words, which I supplemented with my own recollections of summer holidays with my grandparents in Kerala and my later visits when I was in medical school. So then he also writes that my cousin Thomas Verghese is a talented artist and engineer and a favorite of Mom's. I'm grateful and proud that his evocative drawings in the book have captured its atmosphere so well. So actually in every part, say part 1, part 2, part 3, you have these beautiful sketches. So you must go through the book. It's a nice one, worth reading. The ISBN is 978-0-8021-6215-5, and the eISBN number is 978-0-8021-6218-2.